In the future, reproduction will change its natural course. Eugenics was the new normal, the science of engineering the genetic makeup of offspring with desirable traits by removing any defects they may have in the future. A genetic database is used to classify those naturally conceived and exposed to future disorders as invalids. At the same time, perfectly engineered people are called valids. The valids have the system on their side. Although each valid person is different from one another, almost all of them have good job opportunities waiting for them. Meanwhile, if someone is identified as invalid, they are assigned low-grade jobs. Genetic discrimination is illegal by law, but it is just a word on paper. Companies use genetic profiling to assign people to certain jobs. Due to the advanced DNA testing technology, avoiding testing is impossible. Companies can obtain DNA samples from applicants in any way they see fit. This was an unfair world for an invalid person who had no chance of being successful in the future, even if he had all the intellectual and emotional intelligence in the world. Meanwhile, in Detroit, the Freemans, a married couple in love, take a chance by putting their faith in the Creator. They conceive a child, and the mother delivers a healthy baby boy. He was named Vincent Freeman. Immediately after his birth, the doctors ran all sorts of genetic tests on the boy. The result was heartbreaking for the Freemans. Vincent's results were as follows: 60% probability of neurological disease, 42% manic depression probability, 89% attention deficit disorder, and 99% probability of fatal heart failure. The doctors also estimate Vincent's lifespan to be 32 years. The odds were against the child. The situation was so bad for Vincent that his parents couldn't even take him to a daycare because the caretakers were afraid to accept a child with such a profile. After a few years, the Freemans were determined to conceive a perfect child in a carefully monitored laboratory. With the help of a specialist and a fertility clinic with the latest technology, the Freemans conceived and brought Anton Jr., named after the first name of Mr. Freeman. Anton was the most favored child by their father, as he showed superior genetic ability growing up. While his parents were away, the two played a game called Chicken, where both would swim to the middle of the ocean as far as possible, and the one who turned back first would be the loser. In these games, Vincent would always lose. Vincent has always been interested in going to space. This was his childhood dream. He always read all things space-related, despite his parents constantly reminding him of his genetic disorders. One day, Vincent challenges Anton to a game of chicken. This time, things are different. Not only did Vincent win, but he saved Anton from drowning. This shows that Vincent was not always as weak as everyone thought. Shortly after the incident, Vincent leaves his home and goes on to pursue his way. Life was not easy for Vincent, as his genetic materials didn't help him find a job. He bounced around many jobs until he got one job as a cleaner at a spaceflight conglomerate, Gattaca Aerospace Corporation. While cleaning the offices, he often fantasized and pretended to be working at one of the desks. Determined to make his dream come true, Vincent takes extreme measures. He decides to call a special person to help him with an illegal and even dangerous task. This anonymous man was a specialist in helping people change their identities. He connects the invalids and valids and helps them create a fake identity for a stable commission. The invalids are provided for, but can't be protected from the tragic fates of life. When this happens, they become a ticket for people like Vincent. The man takes Vincent to meet a previous swimming star named Jerome Eugene Marrow, who is paralyzed after being in a car accident with excellent genetic result scores. After discussing some terms, Vincent decided to impersonate him. The man helps Vincent by providing contact lenses, adjusting his dental situation, and even going to the extreme of adjusting Vincent's height by performing surgery on his legs. After completely healing, Vincent fully assumes Jerome's identity. Using the genetic samples he obtained from Jerome, he passed all the necessary tests and was hired by the Gattaca Corporation. He is assigned as a navigator for the upcoming mission to Saturn's moon, Titan. Vincent's wish has now come true. But to keep his identity a secret, Vincent has to do a detailed job of scrubbing his body to remove all traces of his genetic material. He also has to use a plastic filled with Jerome's blood on his thumb to pass detection while showing up to work. He is very careful not to leave any trace of himself at the workplace. and he regularly cleans his desk and leaves Jerome's genetic samples spread around to keep people from suspecting anything. Vincent and Jerome have a good arrangement of their own. Jerome gives Vincent regular samples of blood, sweat, urine, and any product to help him pass the company's regular test, while Vincent pays and provides payment for any necessary expenses Jerome may need. Vincent fools everybody and rises through the ranks of Gattaca quickly. Only one person stands in his way, the mission director. One day, the mission director is murdered, and this triggers a series of investigations at Gattaca. Vincent, who is always careful, leaves a strand of his eyelash at the crime scene without knowing it. The police find the eyelash and make Vincent their primary suspect. They plan to investigate the employees at Gattaca Corporation, but they still don't suspect it was one of their highest-ranking members. Vincent, on the other hand, unaware of what is about to happen, goes to celebrate with Eugene after hearing that despite the presence of an investigation, the mission was still to be launched in time. Vincent tells Eugene that he is about to go to space. As a result, they go out to celebrate their achievement. Vincent's colleague Irene, jealous of his accomplishment, takes a hair sample from the comb Vincent puts in his drawer. She secretly gets it tested, hoping to find a defect in his genetic makeup. But the result wasn't what she suspected because Vincent left Eugene's sample on purpose. Vincent and Jerome are back from their night out. As Vincent was helping a drunk Jerome to bed, Jerome confessed to him about how he got paralyzed. Jerome confesses that he wasn't drunk at the time, but he knowingly jumped in front of a car to try and kill himself. It is revealed that Jerome is a perfectionist, and after placing second in the Olympics, he became suicidal. Jerome couldn't accept second place and was supposed to win everything because he had the best genetic makeup. The next day, the police are still investigating the murder. The detective on the case asks management and some employees, including Irene, questions. At the same time, Vincent tries to keep out of sight. One time, on break, Vincent catches Irene while she is staring at a rocket launched into the air. She informs Vincent that the police have found an eyelash sample of an invalid, which Vincent recognizes to be one of his own, but continues the conversation as if nothing happened. She then apologizes to him after confessing that she had his samples tested. Her reason was that she was jealous as she couldn't travel to space. Despite her genetics being engineered, it showed a probability of heart failure. That night, Vincent came home to tell Eugene that their plan may be failing due to the eyelash sample being found near the crime scene. But Eugene assured Vincent that they would never suspect one of their elite members to be invalid. Vincent cleaned himself up and went to a piano performance with Irene. Meanwhile, the lead detective in the investigation has ordered a random search around a 5-mile radius from the Gattaca office. This puts both Eugene and Vincent at risk. Eugene passes his test and argues against a detective. At the same time, with Irene in a car, Vincent is almost caught but manages to pass the test by avoiding the saliva test and only giving a blood test through his thumb. Vincent is slipping up because of his attraction to Irene, as he spends more and more time with her. The next day, the investigation takes a serious turn, as Vincent's genetic sample was discovered again. While trying to avoid the detective on the case, Vincent gives away his cup to the janitor. This discovery led the detectives to suspect the invalid was copying someone. They decided to have every employee in Gattaca tested by drawing blood directly from blood vessels, but Vincent manages to avoid detection once again as he swaps the needle he was injected with the one that has Eugene's blood sample in it. Vincent asks Irene out on a date, and they are having a good time. But then suddenly, a random raid occurs on the place, forcing Vincent to fight with one of the officials. Vincent punches the officials and hides in an alley. One of the investigators quickly takes the sample of Vincent from the injured official, and during this time, it is revealed that one of the lead detectives in the case is Anton, his brother. After dinner, Irene discovers that Vincent is not perfect, and they spend the night together. But the next day, they have a fallout after she discovers the real Eugene, when she is forced to cover for him by going to his house. The investigation, on the other hand, comes to a short end, as it is discovered that Eugene's boss, who was highly investigated in the mission, was the one who killed the mission director because he threatened to cancel the mission. Vincent realizes the detective leading the investigation is his brother. At the same time, Anton discovered Vincent's identity after investigating the sample from the injured officer. Vincent goes to the office to comfort his brother. Anton demands Vincent to resign and leave the company because of his illegal actions, but Vincent argues that he got into this position after fighting for it for a long time. To resolve their argument permanently, Anton challenges Vincent to a game of chicken. Both swim into the ocean in the middle of a storm. Vincent beats Anton and saves him from drowning once again. On the day of the launch, Jerome tells Vincent that he will be traveling and that he has prepared every DNA sample enough to last him 2 lifetimes when he returns. After he says goodbye to Irene, he prepares to board but discovers there is a genetic test. Although he doesn't have any of Eugene's samples on him, he gets saved by Dr. Lamar, who is in charge of background checks. He told Vincent he knew who he was all along, and by helping him, he wanted to give hope to his son, who was a genetic match but had some defects. Finally, Vincent gets into the shuttle, and Jerome gets into an incinerator in his home, where he sets himself on fire at the same time Vincent's shuttle launches. The movie ends with Vincent opening an envelope he received from Eugene before he leaves, only to find a lock of Eugene's hair. If you enjoyed this recap, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.